everybody. Welcome back to Point Shot. My guest today is Mark Kundrak. How you doing, Mark?
Doing good, Tim. How about yourself?
I'm okay. You know what? Full disclosure, I think we should probably do this. We just did a 15-minute interview, and we had technical difficulties, so now we got to run it back. But that's all good. We'll share some of the same stuff and probably hit some new territory. Mark, you were a stud volleyball player back in the day. Is that right?
I don't know about stud volleyball player, but I guess about 25 years ago and 130 pounds ago, I was decent. I was pretty decent at volleyball.
Well, you played in the Rumble that Kenny runs, and so would you play the two-man game in volleyball?
Well, I actually started. I tried out for when I went to Shippensburg University. I grew up playing baseball and football, but I went to college and I picked up volleyball the year before I went to college, and I tried out and made the team.
Wow. So
I learned how to play out in college. I played for Shippensburg, and then after that I got into the grass double scene.
Nice. What was the best result you had at that tournament?
At the Rumble?
Yeah.
I think like losing in the first or second round of the playoffs. And myself and my partner had a really good match on center court with two really good guys, Jerry Poor and Henry Default, and it was probably like a great time of my volleyball career.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's a big tournament to get that deep.
Yeah, I never got that deep in it, but it was always fun.
Hey, you made the playoffs at that thing. I think that's an accomplishment in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. I was never in the open division. I was probably a mid-level open player. I was not close to one of the top ones, but I guess at 5'9" and I did pretty well for my height limitations.
Yeah, you were probably a scrapper. Get down.
Yeah, I was a defensive player pretty much.
Yeah. That's nothing wrong with that, man. So that's where you met Kenny Cass and kind of got introduced to this game, quoits, right?
Yeah, it was Kenny and mostly two of the old timers. I think you know him, Larry Farman and Jamie Hanley.
Yeah, Jamie still shows up and plays occasionally. I haven't seen Larry in years and years and years and years.
Yeah, Jamie, I used to throw one or two tournaments a year with Jamie. We used to throw pretty well together.
He was always at the Cracky when they were a couple of years ago after Cracky passed. You remember Cracky, I'm sure.
Yeah.
After he passed, they did a tournament for a couple of years to raise money for I don't know, the Cracky Foundation or something for drunk guys falling in bushes with no shoes. But Jamie was at that one, I believe, almost every year, if not every year.
Okay. I played, at least one or 2 point tournament a year I usually played with Jamie. And then sometimes a 724 tournament. I played once with Kenny at Danville one time. That was a lot of fun throwing with Kenny Cass.
Yeah. Do you remember what year that was?
I think it was the year before he won with Tony Russo.
Yeah. So Tony, I think that was 08 or 09 that they won.
Well, I think it was either 06 or 07 I threw with Kenny up there.
Yeah, that would make some sense. Yeah.
Yeah. We made a good run. I think we made it to maybe like the third round, and then we lost to Bill Sr. and Bill Jr. Conrad.
That's probably the year they won. That we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, I don't know who won that year, but I know they knocked us out.
I think you lost to the champs that year. I think Billy won with his dad that year.
Yeah, it possibly could have been. But I always lost to the Conrads in tournaments. They knocked me out of almost every point tournament back in the day. So.
Well, there's a lot of them, and they're good. So, if you're good and you're going to have a good day, you're going to run across a Conrad somewhere. Yeah. And, the odds are you're going to hit at least one of them.
Yep.
And they're not unbeatable, but they're really hard to beat.
Oh, exactly. And then, When you lose to Billy, he loves to let you know that he beat you.
Well, he's the GOAT. So
Yep, he is.
until somebody else is the GOAT, he can do that, right?
Yep. No, I have no problem with it. I mean, I think I like all the comments. I mean, I like all the quaters. I mean, to be honest, everybody's good people out there.
Yeah, it's a great group of men and women. Some of the best people I've met
Yep.
definitely come through that. So you and I probably knew each other a little bit, but I mean, at that point when you were playing before you left the game, which we'll get to,
Yeah.
Carl and I would play. Fritz's Island was fledgling. That was just me and Carl.
Yeah.
And so we probably played against you. You guys probably kicked our ass. You know, we probably ran into you, maybe shared a beer or something. But you know, we were still learning how to play at that point. So I don't have I don't have a memory of you killing me, but
Yeah. And back then, I mean, some of the tournaments, you know, we had 90 plus teams.
yeah.
So it was a little harder to know everybody back in the day, you know, at a tournament.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, there's a lot of theory on that, a lot of talk. The game, as the numbers dwindled, the actual level of the game has skyrocketed as far as the level of play. And I think that's a part of it.
Yeah.
In addition to the tournaments, you mentioned 724,
Yeah.
and then the USQA tournaments. Back in the day,
That was about it.
that was it. Now,
Yep.
now there's tournament just about every weekend, so you don't get 90 because people can pick and choose their tournaments, and a lot of people, I think, you know, pick around those USQA tournaments because they know that it's a really high level. If you're not committed time-wise, maybe you don't want to go into those. I wish people would show up at all of them, but
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, it'd be nice to see, you know, 60 plus teams at the USQA tournaments at least, but the competition now is way higher than it was years ago.
yeah, let's talk about that. You took a 12-year hiatus. You moved. You had some
Yep.
issues you battled through, and you're in Jersey where they throw funny quoits called Trenton quoits and real quoits, and you know, that's great, but it's not what we do. So when you left the game, when you left Pennsylvania, what was a normal game like? Like what would happen? How did the game transpire? I just want to know what it was like when you left, and we'll talk about what it was like when you got back.
Oh, you know, back in the day, in the early to mid, you know, 2000s, I guess, or however you want to say that, but it was a point game. I mean, it was just, I don't want to say everybody threw points all the time, but you know, 90% of the time it was, you know, try to get that front door. Um, and not that many people were banging ringers back in the day. Not like today.
Yeah, so you took 12 years off, and then a buddy of yours dragged you out of retirement. You came up to Danville 2-3 years ago,
Yep.
and what it had to be a bit of an eye opener. You show up, the game in those 12 years evolved quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, it was totally different. First of all, I didn't bring any quates with me because years ago, a lot of tournaments, the USQA tournaments, they had quates in every pit.
They stopped doing that because a couple scumbags stole the quates.
Is that what happened?
Yep. So it's like, oh, you buy them and bring your own.
Yeah, I mean, my friend Greg Herbst and I showed up there, and we were ill prepared to throw. We had no quates. We had no idea, you know, that the game changed like it did. And then you get there and you just see ringers left and right. I mean, just banging on. I mean, years ago, you know, I'd throw a ringer and, you know, never worried about being topped. I mean, it happened once in a while, but not many people could throw ringers years ago. But up at Danville, I think I got topped like, you know, 5-6 times in a row. And I just wasn't used to that.
Yeah, that's a fascinating perspective you have. A lot of the guys from back in the day, I don't think they realize anymore. People have been playing all that time. They kind of remember it, but they've evolved with the game into this new level game, and they don't think about it. And some of the folks that have come along since, you know, they showed up and the arms race was on. So
Yeah.
they learned the game throwing bombs, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I actually like it now. I like this game better than it used to be.
Really?
I mean, it's different. I like the challenge of everybody being able to throw a ringer, and I think it kind of adds to it.
Absolutely. The strategy is still there too.
Yeah.
Get that. There's a lot of people that still throw first point. You'll notice the ringer guys have a separate where they come up short with that flat quake and slap it in front. And that's hard to wedge out. Guys like me and you that throw that knife shot, it's hard to wedge out a flat quake that's tight in front. But now that's led to the evolution of the side shot that Tony Russo started. But there's a lot of guys now that somebody's tight in front. If you're not going for the ringer, you try and tighten up on the side.
Yeah, I mean, I like so many more shots now. I mean, even though people are banging the ringers, I mean, you see a lot of people get creative with shots, and it's just, I mean, I just love the creativity of how everybody throws, and I'll watch everybody throw out there. I'll try to pick up something from everybody if I see something.
Yeah, I do the same thing. It's smart.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't always work, but
But it's interesting to see people's approach, how they do things and in what situations they attempt different shots,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Here's an interesting thing. A few years back, probably right around the time you were coming back, I saw Storm Hogue in a situation where he had a ringer on, but it wasn't for the game. But he was playing like Dan Grigas or somebody who's just a stud ringer thrower. So with his second quake, even though he didn't have game laying, he didn't want to put 6 on and give that guy a shot at 9. So he threw it upside down and landed it. So
upside,
yeah, force him to put on the clamshell for 6 to get the, and then his dad came back, I think, and scored 2 points, and they won the game. And so the strategy, that's a level of strategy that wasn't involved 12 years ago.
Oh, yeah. But the one thing that was involved 12 years ago and isn't now is the shutout.
Correct. Yeah.
Which,
good point. And 7-point rule.
Yeah, and 7-point rule. But the shutout, I know that was different when I came back, and there was no shutout.
Well, you know what? That's tied in with the ringers because there's so many ringers. You could go out there and bang, bang. You only get a chance to throw 2 or 4 quates, and the game's over. And because of covers and whatnot. And if you're in a bracket where you have a bye, so let's say you're in the second game of your 3 in that round.
Yeah.
And you get banged out in 2 minutes on a shutout. Now you're down the third game, and maybe you're down the first game of the next. You could be sitting an hour and a half.
Yeah, I understand why it's not there.
I'm not defending it. I'm just saying that was the reason behind it. I like. It is exciting. When we played at Kenny's a couple weeks ago,
we had the shutout. Yep.
We had the shutout rule, and
Dion and I got shut out. Yeah, we know what it feels like. So
it sucks, man. But when you do get to 10, and you the other guy throws one, and maybe he's not tight, but he's close. You got to get a friggin' point, or this game's over. You got 8 pounds to get the job done to stay alive.
Yeah, it's speaking of that, I mean, last year in the singles tournament, I think it was like my last game of pool play. I was throwing against Mike Reitmeyer, former world champion.
Yeah.
And
I know that.
Yeah. But I asked him, I said, "How you doing today?" He's like, my ringer shot's not there. So he throws first, he rings it, I miss. He tops himself, and I triple him. And then coming back down, I top him, and within 2, he threw 3 ringers, and I'm up 15-0.
Yeah.
So I mean, I understand why the shutout rule is going.
But then with that 15-0, I'm going to assume with that sort of lead, you were able to whittle the game away with your point shot in front. But people can come back from 15 down.
Definitely, I did hold on that one, but I mean, it's just it can happen to anybody. I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, people have come back from 18-1 now and stuff like that.
Absolutely, yeah, it happens all the time. Get the pin back and start rolling, and if somebody puts one on by accident, you're throwing against a team like, let's say, the Ring Dingers, right? And you got them down hard, 15-2 or something. You're just trying to throw the point in there. You do not want to give them a look at 6s and 9s, and you accidentally put one on. Danny or Scotty's going to cover you.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
now you got your hands full because they're coming at you hard, because they
yep,
got nothing to lose at this point. And
yep,
you gotta squeeze them away quiet. Take them
yeah.
quietly, man.
Yeah, I mean, years ago, I was never, I never thought about, not throwing a ringer if I needed to or something like that. But there's definitely a lot more strategy on when to throw a ringer nowadays.
Absolutely, and it's a risk too. It's a
Yeah,
calculated risk. Like uh, a lot of times you may go for a ringer when the guy only has one quate that you wouldn't if he had two.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, you mistakenly put a ringer on with your first quate, throwing against like Keeb or something like that, and you're like, oh man, here we go.
That happened to me at the Peach last year. I was playing with Dion, and we were in game 2, and Keeb came down. I'm throwing point shots, but I was in a good groove. I was pure, but I was overcooking them, and I'm putting them on first quate. And then Keeb would miss, and I'd miss, and then Keeb would cover me. He did it to me 3 times in one game. Dion's giving me shit. I'm like,
Yeah,
dude, I'm not trying to do it. You know what I mean? I'm trying to block the damn pin. But Keeb's a handful. He puts pressure on your game.
yeah. I was throwing I was throwing next to you in the playoffs that first round. I was throwing with Bowflex that day.
Oh, yeah,
And
Bowflex.
yeah, because my partner on the way, I was halfway over to Pennsylvania. My partner called and said he had a family emergency. So I'm like, oh man. I'm like, well, I'm still, going over and see if I hook up with somebody. And saw Carl, and he said, yeah, my son needs somebody. So we ended up, hooking up that morning, and we won a round or two in the playoffs, and then we got knocked out by Fritz's Island J&K.
Oh, yeah. We ran into them. We took them out then.
Yeah, I think it was next round.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, that's an interesting team, you and Bowflex, because he's a UPS guy and you're a FedEx guy, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. But we didn't know that when we were throwing. We didn't know until after we were knocked out, and something came up about it.
Oh, yeah. You'd be like the delivery squad or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, could be fed up,
Yeah, I like that. I like
Yeah.
that a lot. Hey, we're running out of time here, brother.
Yeah.
One last question here. I've been hitting
Mhm.
everybody. Any celebrity, living or dead, you could bring to a Quake tournament as your partner. Who you got?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go a little bit on a little bit different here. I'm gonna go with Christopher Walken, one of my favorite actors.
I
I think
like it.
he would be a blast to throw a Quake tournament with.
Yeah, he'd be fun to have around the pits for 12 hours for sure.
Yep,
Yeah.
definitely.
I love that pick. I love it, Mark. Well, this
Yeah.
has been great. I apologize for the technical difficulties earlier. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
You look like a vision from heaven with that halo behind you. Shades on. You look badass, brother.
Yeah. Just one last thing, if I could say it.
Sure, man.
I mean, my one goal on this interview was to not mention the Ring Lords once, and oh man, I just got it. Man, I just gave them some free publicity, like everybody else does.
Well, they're an important fabric of this game. They're woven into the DNA of our game.
Oh, I know that.
You can avoid the Ring Lords wherever you go. They're there.
Yep.
But that's good. That's a good thing. I love those guys. I'm going to have them on. I'm going to interview them tomorrow. So,
oh, that'll be a blast.
I'm sure they're going to practice social distancing during the interview. So, all right, brother. Well, this has been good.
Yeah.
Hopefully it worked this time. I greatly appreciate your time. Sometimes you just got to take the point, right?
Exactly.
Peace out, Mark.
Take it easy.